I don't seem to be able to get it on my screen, which means I don't have any comments. I have to sort that one out. I'm going to play the national anthem now. Well, good morning, everybody. This is Gulf Harbour Radio. Patricia and David with you for the first time this season here on May 1, 2018, a Tuesday. And believe it or not, it's actually a decent day down here at Gulf Harbour. 17 degrees, 1002.2, and slowly going up after the 3 digits. We have a very light 7 knots of west-southwest. 30% cloud cover. We didn't see too much of the moon before. It was pretty cloudy then, but it's going to be a pretty good day today. And we started the first day with the New Zealand National Anthem because, as you know, on everybody's National Day, I play your National Anthem, but I never get a chance to play our own here because it's in February. So I thought, what a good idea. We will start with the National Anthem. There's not many more this month. In fact, there's none until we come to Italy on June 2. Anyway, we have got a few changes to talk about this morning before we get on to the all-important weather window. But anyway, the first quarter hour, we have got a few changes because when I asked people what they wanted in this first 15 minutes, they decided they wanted a bit more news and less boaty type stuff. So I thought we would probably do that. But we have had quite a few changes this season. What we have done, as you know, we've always used Mike's www.yit.nz, Yachts and Transit website that you use for position reporting and the like. We now have our own website. We've taken off all of the weather and communications stuff, and we now have a new website and email address. So grab your pencils because if you want anything to do with weather or communications, our new website and email address is ghradio, all run together, ghradio.co.nz. And that will have on there all the information you might want on any of the weather stuff that David's written about over the years, and various things on radio and communications. So the email address again, ghradio@extra, that is xtra.co.nz. Don't put an E in it. Our email address, if you want David or myself or anything to do with weather, ghradio@extra.co.nz. Now, moving on to the Git site, that has no changes, absolutely the same as what you've got used to in the past. It is yit.nz if you want the website. And if you need Mike, if you are having any problems with anything, contact Mike. It's the word Mike, M-I-K-E, at yit.co.nz. So anything to do with the YIT site, Mike, M-I-K-E, at yit.co.nz. Now, you probably won't be leaving today, so a good time to test things out if you're putting things on the website, like your position. And I know some people I've been reading, they are doing a test before they go. Really good idea. So put in a test to make sure you remember your password. A lot of people haven't made any entries over the summer period. You've all been too busy enjoying the countryside and the rain. So just make sure that you use the email address that you are going to be using when you are on Passage, and make sure that you can put an entry in. Just make sure that everything is working well before you go. All right, streaming. We are on a new system for streaming. It's going through to YouTube. Those folk that want to listen on streaming, and a lot of people in the islands tend to want to do this, just go to our website, ghradio.co.nz, click on the streaming button, and you should manage to make it heard. I haven't actually managed to do that myself this morning, but hopefully the streaming is going out, because the computer that does that says it is streaming. Alrighty. I just haven't managed to work out how to get your comments at this point, but I will do that shortly. There are a lot of boats, of course, gathering in Marsden, Whangarei area and Opua, and there is a lot of interest based on the emails for departure this week, and the weather Yoda here will cover that shortly. He says. There have been a few boats that have left already, of course. Often there is a decent passage in April, and we have people up in the islands. Good morning, Margie and Monty, up there at Tabiuni. They had a pretty good passage up to Fiji, and we have a couple of boats already way east of us. Good morning, 2C2 and Bright Angel. I'm going to call you in a minute, because I would be interested to know if we can copy you. So there you have it. Alrighty, just a comment. If you are going to be wanting weather information on the net, David will be covering the usual passage conditions and the different island groups from east to west. If you need anything in particular, it would be good to get an email into him the night before or early in the morning. What he does, we really appreciate the reports that come in on YIT, because he looks at those just to make sure that what he's seen on Gribs and the like does actually match what you have got. So try and get that in before 7 o'clock our time, or 1900 UTC, 1900 UTC. We realise we've got people on both sides of the dateline now, so we have to be a bit picky on how we describe timing. So yeah, if you can get those in. And the other request, please, at this stage, when you are reporting in on YIT, please separate off your weather. Sometimes there is people put it all in the report on what they ate for breakfast and what they did yesterday and what they caught by way of fish, etc., etc. And it's very hard to find when you're rushed in the morning what the weather is. So please separate out the weather, because on my screen I just look at that and we look at comparing actual conditions with model conditions. Alrighty, a quick update of the news, which is what we're going to do. And the problem with news that you want to hear is I don't know what news you are really interested in. We have people from all around the world listening, and so your interests are going to be quite different from each other. But what I will do is I'll just sort of give headlines, and no particular item will take more than a minute. I will bring in a stopwatch so that I don't get carried away on something like the Formula One race at Baku yesterday, which was pretty exciting. I happened to be at the gym watching that on Sky and watched the disastrous crash, the Red Bull crash, where teammates Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen decided to take each other out. But it was a really, really cool circuit. I always thought Baku and Azerbaijan was sort of like, back in the 19th century, but it was an amazing course. There's a couple of really long straights. One of them's about 2 kilometres long. And the part that actually goes through the city, what they do is seal up with a new surface all the cobblestones, and then they take it all away at the end of the race. There's a lot of money goes into this race at Azerbaijan, which was in fact won by Lewis Hamilton. He's back in business again for Mercedes. Second was Ferrari, Raikkonen. Third was Force India, Perez, and then another Ferrari, Vettel, and a Renault was fifth. And Hartley, New Zealand's Hartley, actually managed to get 10th, so he got a point. But that was helped, of course, by the Red Bull crash, who took out a couple of key players. Other news of interest, was that more than a minute? I think that might have been more than a minute. You see what I mean? That unless I know what you really want to hear.
I want to hear it.
Oh, you want to hear it? Oh, okay. All right, other news. There are about 200 people in a migrant caravan testing out the former President of the United States as they're camped outside the border in a couple of places, Tijuana and San Isidro. So we'll be interested to see what happens to those guys waiting to try and get into America.
Try that in Russia.
Yeah, try that in Russia, says David. All right, Amber Rudd, a high keen player on the British Parliament, British Home Secretary, in fact, has had to resign because of, a lot of things, but mostly the handling of illegal immigrants and the Windrush problem. They were all the people that came in after World War II to help out in the UK. I don't think I'll bother with things like the suicide attack in Kabul, which killed 25, and the missile attack in Syria that kills 26. You really don't want to hear about those sorts of things when you're cruising, do you? I remember when we first started cruising, all we heard about was the continued bombings by the IRA in Northern Ireland, and it made you actually want to not turn the radio on. So I think we'll sort of keep it to things that are of interest to absolutely everybody, hopefully. But if you have a specific interest that you want me to find out about, let me know, and we will include that in the very quick updates. All right, I am now going to see if I can hear these boats in the Far East. Let's try for 2C2, Gulf Harbor Radio. Oh, well, you are coming in well, and we do have your position there at 25 degrees, 40 south, and close to 154 west. But I thought you wouldn't hear us because you probably got the engine on. Westerly 2 to 3 knots is not going to do much help for a high speed. Over. Yeah, well, I hope you have more luck at getting fuel at River Bay than we had when we were there. There was nothing unless you wanted to buy. You could have possibly bought a 44-gallon drum, but I think things have changed a lot since we were there a long time ago. So you'll be hopefully okay. I'll wait for David to update you folk, but it's lovely to say good morning to you people on board 2C2. And I'm just going to see if I can find Bright Angel as well. Bright Angel, are you there? Over. Oh, I've copied you really well. So that's good, Bob, and good morning to Linda and the crew. So, yep, it's been really interesting following you guys. I haven't seen your report this morning. Whereabouts are you? Over.
Report. We're in the front or low or whatever it is coming across. We are at 271904 south 103 0.8 west. And right now we got true wind from 29 to 30 now. And it is roughing us off. Over.
Well, I shouldn't laugh, but boy, you do get a bit of that on your way. The direction of the wind, course and speed, and I'll put this in for you, over.
Roger. The wind is north-northeast, and like I say, it's 29 to 30, gusts about 35. Our course is, it's all over the place. Right now it's about 0.95, and we're forward-reaching anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 knots. Over.
Okay, but boy, you've got a booming signal, so really, really good radio, Bob. So got all of that, and I'll put the post in because I can't imagine you'll be wanting to sit at the computer with those conditions.
Was that 22 south?
David's just, no, it's not 22 south, it's 27 south, 27 south. So you're just a bit below 2C2 there. By the way, 2C2, just while you're listening, when I look at you on the YIT site, it looks like you're heading a bit north of River Bay, so I'll come back to you shortly to get your course. You didn't put your course in. All right, Bob, I'll leave that with you, and David will probably make some comments shortly. Over.
Good. We'd like to know how much more of this we have to endure before we go back to motoring. Over.
Yeah, roger that, and it certainly is not going to be a gourmet dinner or shower day in those conditions. Alrighty, I will certainly do that, but boy, what a lovely signal from you. And just before I put the microphone to David, and I forgot to move the radio across to where he is, so there'll be a slight pause when I do that. 2C2, what is your course at the moment, please? Over. Nothing heard from 2C2. Alrighty. Well, what we'll do now, folks, is I'm going to have a slight pause while I move the radio. What we do here in the radio room is I've got everything on a movable trolley, all my radio gear, and when we are working together in the morning, I am meant to have had this close to David, so the microphone actually reaches him to his two computers that he's working from. So just give me a half a minute and we will cover the all-important weather, which happens at this time every day on the half hour for those people that are short on power and only want to tune in for the weather. So, and I don't think he's made any changes. You know, when you get to a certain age, you are really stuck in your ways, but we'll wait and see. Here he is. Here's a relay. Go ahead. I've got somebody very light. Try again. Oh, I doubled with 2C2. Thanks, Jonathan. Good morning to you. Are you still up in the Marshalls? Over? Oh, okay. All right. 2C2, your course, please. Okay, you're booming in now too. Okay, 0702, and David still wants your up-to-date ETA in River Bay, but with you probably won't be able to give me an accurate one with on and off again motor. But what is it? Still Thursday? Over. Roger that. Okay, here's David.
All right, good morning, everybody. And first, moving the giant table we have here with
lots of weight.
Yeah, don't push too hard. The wires are going to come apart. If you ever did that, we'd be off the air, that's for sure. It'd probably take us 2 years to figure out where they all go. Okay, well, here we go again with another cruising season already underway for some, as you've heard. We've got some pretty brave people heading east. 2C2 is off to Riva Bay, south of Tahiti. And Bright Angel is taking a circuitous path to Hawaii and then the U.S. From there. Now, I'm going to keep pretty much the same format as I did last year. We're going to start with a general outlook of the Southwest Pacific, and then we'll zero in on essentially Tonga, Fiji, Vanuatu, and New Caledonia. Now, I encourage you folks to call in with questions, particularly call in with conditions. And as Patricia said, that enables me to measure the models, how well the models are doing. So here on Passage as well, I can give you projected wind speed and direction for a couple of days, pretty much with the latest models, which you may not have a chance to get on the yacht as you're underway. And we aren't going to be limited to the 4 main island groups that I mentioned, so it'll be all things in between to the north and so forth, so be aware of that. Now, most of you get your grids from one source or another, and what you download may be different from my data. So when I'm giving you winds, very possibly you'll have a different amount or different amount of wind speed or direction, whatever. And reasons for that, I could be using, well, first of all, a different model than you're using. If it's the same model, I could be using a different runtime than you are. And like I say, different models altogether. I look at GFS, ECNWF, CMC, which is the Canadian model, JMA, which is the Japanese model, and that tends to be pretty good, surprisingly. I also look at NavGem, which is the old No Gaps, the U.S. Navy model. I also look at Arpege and Aron, these are the French models, and BOM from Australia, of course. And I look at others as well. I look at ensembles. We'll talk about what ensembles are at another time. But anyways, a lot of things I look at. Every day I also look at the Jetstream. And as you all painfully know, I look at the 500 millibar analysis and the frogs. And of course, I look at the surface data from these various models. And finally, satellite imagery is a very important part of my analysis. I look at IR, which is infrared. I look at the visible. I do that usually during the day, which is the only time you will see visible. And the water vapor imagery, WV, and that's quite helpful as well. I could pick up essentially very, very high cloud, which would indicate thunderstorm activity and all that sort of thing. Now, one could really say there's almost too much data available. It's quite easy to get overwhelmed, as I'm sure that many of you have found out. So myself, I pick what I'm comfortable with, what's worked in the past. When I give wind and wind speed and direction, oftentimes it's more or less my own. I tend sometimes to blend models, just what I feel would be correct for the situation. And that's why your reports are valuable, to see how accurate I wind up being. Now, in fact, it's only one of 2 ways that I could verify this analysis. Apart from your reports, I also use the ASCAT satellite, and that is a microwave satellite that gives precise wind and direction. And sometimes I catch people fibbing a little bit, but that's okay. The problem with ASCAT, however, is that the data comes in swaths. In other words, areas of wind speed and direction. It doesn't cover the entire Southwest Pacific at one time. They're just narrow swaths. So many times I don't have any data for our area. So it's not always reliable in that regard. Data certainly is when you get it, but getting it is sometimes an issue due to the time of day and when the satellite passes. So anyway, at the moment, most of you are ready to go north. Do your homework, of course, as you do, and always establish your ETA. As you know, we always talk about this, so work out your approximate position every day, and very importantly, your final destination time, and look at your grids and see what weather is planned for you for those days, and particularly the arrival date. most important when you're coming back here to New Zealand. Now, we're currently in an ENSO neutral cycle. In other words, neither El Nino nor La Nina. It essentially is a cycle of minimal extremes, but that doesn't mean vicious depressions won't appear. They most certainly can. Strong highs as well could appear. Now, this particular week, the MJO cycle is fairly weak, which is pretty good news in that sense of chances of a late season tropical cyclone are minimized. But you never say never in this business. They certainly could occur, but at least it's good news that that cycle is relatively benign at the moment. I would not like to see it active during this departure period. Now, most of you are aware that we don't give advice, nor do we do any routing. There are many people that give routing. Bob McDavitt is our local man, and there are others scattered about that many of you use and are comfortable with. So, apart from that, if you are in a tricky situation, even if you are getting routing and you want another opinion, just let us know. We don't give the advice, but we'll tell you what Chameleon would do. And Chameleon is our yacht. So you'll get a second opinion, which, well, it could be wrong, but in any case, it's a second opinion. Now, I suppose you could say Chameleon has cruised pretty much around the world, which we have, with quite a bit of experience in the island groups that we're going to be forecasting. So that gives us a little bit of an edge in that we've been to many of the places that you are going to or have been to, and that's a bit of an edge, knowing what it looks like and what the conditions, the orographic conditions are where you are. All right, so let's get on with it. We'll take a look at this week. Now, we've got our complex low that's moving east. It's been a very interesting complex low. Met Service is calling for southwest 20, shifting westerly 10, then southwest 15 by the evening, and probably going to southeast. The seas are still fairly big out there, about 2.5 to 3 meters. The winds on Wednesday, tomorrow, southwest 25, and then shifting southeast 20 in the evening. Then it should remain southeast 10 right through Friday. Now, the WRF model, which is the model that I use in and around New Zealand, that shows southerlies Wednesday morning. And Wednesday morning tomorrow is a day which I think could be the start of your window if you want to get north. So Wednesday morning, WRF showing southerlies, about 20 knots, a little bit different from the Met Service forecast. Then shifts a bit, about southeast 20 by dinner time. Now this southeast remains right through Thursday. UK Met agrees with this, as does EC and also GFS. Now, a subtropical depression around lunchtime tomorrow is going to be located near 27 and 170 west, and it's shoving swell pretty much toward New Zealand. And also at this time, we've got a 1025 high, which is sitting near Brisbane, and that's pushing swell to the northeast. These two wave trains collide roughly around the run line to New Caledonia. They're not huge seas, it would appear, but as you know, when they get together, you get essentially a combination of the two, which a lot of people call a rogue wave, and it's significantly higher than the average. Now, the wind-driven sea should be moving to the north, and that will give you a push if you do depart on Wednesday, so at least you won't be battling that. So what I'm going to do now, since we have very few people up in the islands, I'm going to not go through the island chains today. I'll start up this week, but right now I'm going to do a quick review of passage times and some weather that you might expect heading up to your island routes. Now the average yacht, by the way, gets to 30 south in about 3 days, and 25 south in about 4.5 days, and you get to 20 south in roughly 6.5 days. The trip to Fiji, as you all know, takes about 8 days roughly. Vanuatu, the Anisham port of call, 6.5 days. Minerva Reef takes about 5. So anyhow, if you do depart Wednesday, what I'll do is I'll give you some approximate winds that I picked up this morning. These are the current model winds. So, if you leave Wednesday morning, 3 days out, you'll be at 30 south approximately, and that would be Saturday, and that's, I believe, the 5th of May. GFS and EC are calling off pretty much southeast 15 to 20 if you're going to Minerva. If you're going to Fiji, pretty much southeast 15 to 20. And if you're going to Anisham, a little bit more easterly there, I would say. Whereas, well, the French model is actually calling off southeast winds at 30 degrees. If you're going to Noumea, and I'm not sure we've heard of anybody going to Noumea at this point, but GFS is calling for northeast 10, east-northeast 10 for the French modeling, and EC is calling up easterlies, about 15 to 20. And looking at out 4.5 days would be 7 May, Monday. If you're going to Minerva, well, you'd be almost there. Pretty light air, easterlies, possibly southeast 10 to 15 according to EC. If you're on your way to Fiji at 25 south, easterly 10. The French think east-northeast 10. Easterlies for EC at about 15 to 20. If you're going to Anisham, Vanuatu, southeast 10. The French east 10, and EC is looking at east-northeast, not very strong, about 15 knots. And if you're on your way to Noumea, southeast 15 for GFS. French think it's going to be east-northeast to northeast, about 10, fairly light. And EC is looking at east-northeast, right around 15 knots, maybe a little bit less. And looking at 7 days, which would be Wednesday of next week, the 9th of May, 20 degrees south. If you're sitting nicely at Minerva, you're looking at easterlies, maybe southeasterlies, 10 to 15 knots. If you're on your way to Fiji, we're looking at easterlies about 15. That's GFS, and EC thinks about the same, although maybe a little bit more wind on EC. Anisham, easterlies 10, and EC is looking at east, maybe east-northeast, about 15 knots. And those of you that are pretty much on to Noumea at that time, east-southeast to southeast, fairly light to maybe up to 15 knots. So that's what it's looking like if you leave Wednesday. And these positions that I'm giving you, 30 south, 25, and 20, they're based on about 144 miles a day, which is about 6 knots. And a lot of you are faster than that, so things would be a little bit different. Some of you are slower, and obviously things would be a little bit different at that point, but that gives you an idea. It looks like a reasonable window leaving tomorrow. Now, if you miss Wednesday, the departure from New Zealand has favorable winds in the New Zealand area right through Saturday, which I think is the 12th, isn't it? No. I'm not sure what Saturday is. Anyhow, Monday, the 7th, though, the winds at 30 south are going to be easterly to southeasterly, and that depends on your destination. It does change. So if you're going to Minerva, it's going to be different than if you're going to Noumea. Now, by Wednesday, the 9th at 25 south. Unfortunately, we're looking at headwinds, particularly if you're going to Fiji. And by 11 May near 20 south, expect a funnel band, I'm afraid. And that'll be extending from the New Zealand area to between Fiji and Vanuatu. Some of it may be touching Fiji. And you're going to have northerly quadrant winds preceding that band and westerlies behind it. So it doesn't look very good if you're leaving after Wednesday. So depart, particularly if you wait till this weekend. Saturday departure, while it's nice here, doesn't look very favorable. Nor does it look favorable right through the 16th of May, which is as far as GFS goes. That's 384 hours, and I wouldn't consider that reliable data anyway, but it doesn't look good even through that date. So it looks like a bit of a wait if you don't make tomorrow. And also by then we've got a mountain of a high that's going to be east of New Zealand. The central pressure of that high is projected to be 1045. That's 1045 millibar. This is a huge, huge high, and those are dangerous. They provide for very strong trade wind surges up in the islands. Further away from the center, the stronger the wind. And we usually get some type of a development, a convective development on the northwest corner of these strong highs. So that is not very good news. Now that high, backing it up, would be over New Zealand on this coming Saturday. And even at that point, it's projected to be at 1032. So that's not a very good scenario at all. So that pretty much covers what I have got for you. And I'm going to stop here and to see if we've gotten any questions on streaming or where. I'm going to pass it over to Patricia for a minute. And I haven't forgotten Bright Angel and Tusi too, so I'll be back to that in a minute.
Yes, well, we have a little glitch here. I thought I had this new streaming system all under control, and I see there are 10 people on streaming, but I cannot get the chat box open for some reason. I shall remedy that for tomorrow. So at this point in time, anybody that's on streaming who wants to get a message through or a request, you'll have to use the email ghradio@extra.co.nz. Sorry about that. Well, we always had to start with one little problem, didn't we? But at least the streaming is going out. And on this particular system, it will stay there for a few days. So if you are wanting to revisit something that David said, you'll just click on the date for today, which for some reason is not correct. So I'm going to have to change that. But anyway, we'll change that, and we'll hopefully you'll be able to. Oh, here we are. I have got the chat by clicking on that. Well, isn't that interesting? All right. Thank you, Beth. The chat is working, so we'll be able to have a read of that, and I can correct the date on it, which happens to still be, for some reason, the 28th of last month. Didn't the summer go rather quickly? Well, it did for us, because we had a few problems to deal with here. And then when we were finished with them, we had to get a website started, and then the rain came. So it must have been quite difficult for people trying to get their boat ready to go with all of the rain that we've had in New Zealand lately. But it has been interesting following some of you boats that are up there. For those that have been tracking Kailani, they are on their way to Grenada now. They always have an interesting post, and of course the field trip people have a interesting post as well. So it's been quite fun watching the people that are out there doing some interesting things. Blowing Bubbles is up there somewhere, and Serani, actually, for those that want to know how lovely it is up in New Caledonia, they've got southwest 5 knots and absolutely perfect conditions all through the lagoon, which will be very crowded because it's a holiday in New Caledonia for May Day. Europeans like to celebrate May Day. I suppose that's the first day, supposedly, of summer. For us, of course, it's not so enjoyable to know that the winter is coming here, but it is good for you folk that are on your way or thinking about going north. I'm going to pass. Oh, I'll just do a pause to see if there's anybody that has a specific question before we get on to the weather for the boats heading east. Is there any questions? No, nothing heard. The microphone is going back to David. Geez.
All right, we're looking at Tuesday 2. They're getting very, very close to Riva Bay at the moment. And unfortunately, Mike, actually it's fortunate and unfortunate. Fortunate in that you have got a very mellow situation. You've got a nice little high. It's a very, very small high. It's weak. We're looking at about 1018. I'm not sure what your barometer is showing at the moment, but there's not much wind in it. You're almost in the center of it. So actually, your winds, from my standpoint, are going to be quite variable. They could be anywhere from southeast to southwest. They could even be northeast, but they're going to be all in the light category, 5, 10, 12 knots, that sort of thing. And that's certainly what it looks like tomorrow around lunchtime. I guess you'll be getting in on Thursday. So not much has changed from my email to you, and I think you'll be fine. You're probably going to be doing a bit of motoring to get in, and that's not all so bad. Getting into a new place, give you a good chance to look around, and so forth. Now, Bob on Bright Angel, you're in a slightly different situation. You unfortunately, as you've seen on your grids, I hope, you've got a frontal band to your west that is moving east. So your winds will start to go, they'll be backing. That northeast will start to go north and then eventually go northeast and then maybe northwest once it passes your location. So there's not much you can do about it. And folks, when you're making a long passage like that, you're just going to get what you get, and that's about all you can say. Trish asks, how long will that be? Well, the low that's associated with this frontal band, I'm looking at through the weekend almost into next week. That low will have moved east, and that's the one that we've had, by the way, here over New Zealand. And your winds will be by then more or less westerly quadrant, and they're going to be in the neighborhood of, I would say, 20 knots, 15 to 20 in there. It just depends on what your latitude winds up being by then. So you're going to have to endure this frontal band, and once that's gone through, then conditions look pretty good. Now, I'm not sure, I should say, what your first destination is, Bob. So back to you, if you could let me know where it is you're heading for now and what your ETA is for that spot. Over.
Yes, we are bound for Papa Ace right now, and we're still hoping to get in around 9 and 10 May. So we've got some really, really light winds and the motor, and we're dealing with now. So I can't be any more specific about how you see it.
Yep. Like to take command.
All right, thanks for that. And unfortunately, on around that date, I'm looking at EC at the moment, and the winds look like they're going to be in the neighborhood of northeast, which means you're going to have headwinds when you approach French Polynesia, and that side of Bora Bora or TE, doesn't matter, it's the same all the way through. So that's on Wednesday the 9th. I'll back up, see what things look like on Tuesday. Hang on. Well, Bob, I'm afraid from Sunday right through Sunday's the 6th, right through Wednesday the 9th, the winds are going to be pretty much, easterly on Sunday, because you'll still be a bit south near the, you'll probably be approaching or just south of Bora Bora. Anyhow, then on Monday, Tuesday, and then into Wednesday, the pressure systems, as they move, are going to back the winds, and you'll have northeast. But they don't look very strong, so that's a plus. So you'll either be doing a lot of tacking, or if you've got the fuel and you're getting tired of being out there, I imagine you'll just motor. But that's the story, I'm afraid. So we'll stay in touch and see how you do. I'm amazed we're getting propagation as well as we are. Over to you.
All right, thanks for the good news, David. And is there any, can you give us any kind of a prospect on how long this frontal band will be over?
Yeah, I asked him that twice, Bob, and boy, you know, it's hard to get some specific responses sometimes from these weather people, but we'll try again. And for those that are listening, to get the streaming chat box, and thank you, Beth, for this. Beth says to enter a chat comment, log into your YouTube and select my channel from the account drop down. So to get the chat box, folks who are listening on streaming, you log into your YouTube and then select my channel from the account drop down. Thank you, Beth, and I managed to do that now, so we'll hopefully sort that out, and I'll put those instructions onto the website. Back to specifically how long, hours, minutes and seconds, is this front going to be around Bright Angel?
Oh, I'm not sure about that. But, Bob, it looks like the axis of the frontal band is going to be, this is Friday, between lunchtime and dinner time, probably at 25 south and 160 west. That's the axis. And you should have northwest winds at that point. Not a bad direction, really. You'll be on the wind, but at least you won't be bucking it. Right behind that then are westerlies, and they look like fairly light westerlies. So I'm afraid you've got a couple of days of enduring this. It's a fairly broad cloud system, so that's unfortunate. The low, that's the cause of all of this, is a fairly, not a very strong low, but it does have a lot of upper level support, and it's pulling air in from the north, which obviously is quite humid, and it's factoring in colder air from the south. So those are all meeting and creating that fairly large area of convection. So I'm afraid you won't be getting a suntan for a couple of days. Over.
That's a long time. Boy, I bet Linda wasn't happy about the 2 days. I wouldn't be. I was thinking it was going to be, you know, by dinner time type thing. Alrighty. And thank you, Alison, loud and clear in Noumea. So there are people up there already. So a couple of folk there. Alrighty. Anybody else with anything for Gold Harbour Radio? We'll try and make sure I can get your comments a bit easier tomorrow and make comments as well. Is there anybody else? No, nothing heard, so we will leave you in peace. This morning I'm net controller for the ham net, which is on 14315 in an hour's time. It's at 2100 UTC. We have 8 new ham licensed people sat their test in Whangarei a couple of weeks ago. Congratulations to them. They all did really well. So we've got 8 new hams on the net. Ham being the sort of the abbreviation for somebody with a amateur radio license. So well done, you guys. And the Tony's Maritime Net is in about an hour's time, as I mentioned, and it's just a sort of a chatty net that you can join, and it's got people from both sides of the Tasman, so we can normally pick up people all over the place. David has just given me a message, but it's written in his handwriting, which is virtually, he wants to know Who is leaving Wednesday? Is there anybody out there actually leaving tomorrow, leaving the country tomorrow? Because if there's not, we will be,
I'm not going to go through this one.
we won't go through all the drama of the passage, whether if you are not leaving tomorrow. So let me know now or send us an email, because if there's no one leaving tomorrow, then we won't bother. Who is leaving tomorrow? Please give a call. This is Gold Harbour Radio. Nobody leaving tomorrow. All right, so that cancels that work. That's good. So if you're not going to leave tomorrow, we will delay making any discussion on passage weather until the next day. Alrighty, but if you are, then just drop an email to ghradio.co.nz. Just put 1, 2, let us know if you are interested. Alrighty,
Let me have this.
and the other thing is, just let me know when you get a moment as to the sorts of things you might want in our 5 minutes that we spend on the news. But David wants the microphone again.
Well, here's one of those things. I know a lot of the routers are not calling off a Wednesday departure. I personally think that it could be a reasonable window. Delaying it, I think, till Thursday and Friday, you run more of a chance of getting headwinds, particularly if you're going to Fiji. So, as I said earlier, holding off on that departure till Saturday, as an example, probably is not a good idea, in my opinion, because of those headwinds. Now, many of you may not care about that, which is fine. But if you just give us an idea what's happening through emails, then we could sort of tailor this. Otherwise, I'll just give a general outlook of the Southwest Pacific, and I will not get specific unless through the streaming you give us a notification that you'd like to hear about something. So there we go, and back to the chief.
Alrighty, and I've just been told that you do need an account with YouTube if you want to make a comment. You can listen without having an account on YouTube, but if you want to make a comment, then you do need to have an account. It's free, of course, but you just need to sign in and go through that. So best you do that if you want to. Otherwise, you just can listen or lurk, as we call it. You can lurk around and be a silent lurker. Alrighty, that's all from us for today, folks. I'll just give one call in case there's anybody wanting anything. Blowing bubbles. Well, goodness gracious, you're a long way away. And just so that people know where blowing bubbles are, they are up there at about 17 south and 177 east. And it's a lot warmer than here. Go ahead, Kyle. Yeah, you're on your way back to Fiji, so presumably you've passed the requirements for not being there and you're ready for a nice warm season. Yes, I looked at you guys up there. You certainly don't spend too much time mucking around anywhere, do you? All right, and thank you very much for the call, because it means that we are getting up out that way, and we know we're getting out to the east, and that is super. All right, and good morning to Shelley as well. Thank you for that. And folks, what I do in the mornings too is try and get a call from each of the island groups, just so that we do know that we are getting out propagation-wise. For those that know radio, this year and next year, in fact, is the very, very low point of the sunspot cycle. You don't need to know about why it is the low point, but there is a cycle, and that means that propagation is really the pits. It's not going to be good. We use a lot of power here, so you'll probably hear us, but there will be struggles on radio conditions through this year and next year before it starts getting better again. When it's at the high point of the sunspot cycles, we can sit here and listen to people in Europe, but at the moment it's really poor. But it's good to know that we are getting out, and that's why I do appreciate the calls in. When people get underway, I suspect we're going to start a little bit earlier than 7:15 our time, because there will be quite a few people around. But anyway, at this point in time, we'll stick with the 7:15, seeing as there's nobody heading off at the moment. All right, thank you for that. Is there anybody else? Oh, there is somebody there, a very light, I think it's a lady's voice. Can I have a relay? No, nothing heard. The other possibility that you're very light is that you are within our skip on 8 megahertz. As people know, the signal goes up in the air, bounces off the atmosphere and comes down again. And if you are somewhere below a latitude of about 29 south, then I'm going to struggle to hear you, and we'll need to rely on relays, which is a good opportunity for me to thank people that do help with relays from time to time, because it just makes life a lot easier and quicker in fact. So I'm sorry I can't pick up that boat at the moment, and there's probably not enough people on to give a relay at the moment, but we'll try again tomorrow. Alrighty, that's it from us, Patricia and David, and we will be back again tomorrow at the same time, same pace, except we won't have the national anthem to start with. Cheers, everybody. Have a good day. And if you're getting ready for cruising, get out there in this lovely dry weather. Cheers, all. I'll just turn this off.